Palantir stock. I think if you care anything about Palantir stock, it is definitely worth checking out this video and interview that was done last night on Amit's channel. I mean, the whole thing was phenomenal. I want to go ahead and react to a few of my favorite parts from this last night, and I think it's very impactful on kind of Palantir's future, what's going on here, and yeah, so appreciate you joining me. Thanks so much for being here, folks. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel. I just want to jump straight into this one.
Perfect transition right here to Fabric and Q. So let's start with that discussion. We'll start with you, Code. I mean, Microsoft Fabric is a legit product. Amazon Q a legit product. They have sales, they have distribution. How scared are you for Palantir that they can eat their lunch here?
Not very right now. Like, especially like Amazon's strike rate on quality products is pretty low. Like, they're really good in infrastructure. They're amazing hardware. Like, the people, like, I think James Hamilton's one of the guys that works there. Like, incredible stuff these guys do, right, on the infrastructure level. On the software side, most of their products are either like an amalgamy of like open source stuff kind of wrapped in the Amazon control plane, or it's like not as good of an offering as, say, an open source product that's out there, right? So it's like,
as an Amazon shareholder, it's the third biggest position in the public count. I cannot dispute what he just said. 100%.
I'm never super worried about what Amazon is cooking up behind the scenes in terms of a competitive offering. And with, again, Q is primarily chat focused right now, right? Like, no one came out with like, oh, here's a tool factory and a way to build algorithms and make AI the center of your software business, like, or the center of your business through software. You know, like, no one's doing that. So I'm not super worried, because I think that until you actually have the same vision that Akshay and that Sham and that these guys at Palantir have about how to actually apply this technology correctly, you're not going to be competing with Palantir. You're going to be competing with like OpenAI or like, you know, Microsoft's version of private chat. You know, so I don't think they're playing the same
Is that
game.
just because you don't have the data structured appropriately to truly implement and use AI to its most effective capability?
No, it's because you're still in this position where you think that a general model like GPT-4 with a chat interface is the step change in how software works, right? It's human beings typing in, interacting with the AI to make some process more efficient is really what chat use cases come down to. And that is a use case that accrues more value for the publisher than it does for the user.
For
and
sure.
So like, I'm just saying that they're still in that mindset, right? They're chasing Chat GPT right now. That's really what.
So you're saying you need kind of like underlying things that are already working behind the scenes.
And to be fair, why are these big companies, why are these big dogs chasing that opportunity, right? Well, think about it. If, let's say, ChatGPT is the next Google, let's say, for instance, right? Or a better version of Google, I mean, my gosh, you know, you're talking about a $1 trillion opportunity there, roughly, right? At least a $500 billion opportunity, but if not $1 trillion opportunity long term, right? That's why these big dogs are really focused on that segment of AI, right? And so I think that's very important for everybody to understand. There's a lot of different companies competing very differently in the market, and when it comes to AI, they're not all the same, but a lot of them are chasing kind of ChatGPT type thing, because at the end of the day, man, that's a $500 billion and potentially $1 trillion opportunity, depending upon who wins that.
And you can kind of like interact with this layer of interaction that's actually already working from an AI.
What I'm saying is, how does AI just do the work that the person used to do? Right? So like how does AI just do the scheduling instead of you texting with the AI to do the scheduling? Just let the fucking AI go do the scheduling. You know, how does AI run the factory? You know,
don't get me demonetized. Come on, man.
Then you sitting there doing it the way you used to do in your Excel spreadsheet, right? This is a fundamentally different way you solve problems, and like, really, it's about AI, the generative AI side of this. We kind of unpack this. There's two levels to this. One, generative AI is literally generative. It means it makes shit, right? So like the valuable use cases, the ones where all the value is going to really accrue, is in where are you playing to that strength, right? And things like, you know, video creation, image creation, these are like super strong suits of generative AI, right? And a lot of value is going to be created there. But the other one is like, how can you get AI to creatively solve a problem that requires adaptive problem-solving skills like humans have, where there isn't a computed right answer, right? You can't use a heuristic to solve this problem. You actually need to like explore the problem space and come up with a creative design to solve it. And that's a lot of these problems that they're showcasing. They built a platform that lets you do that, right? allows the AI to figure out solutions to like a factory shutdown. What do I do, right? How do I reroute all that inventory? You don't need a human to do that anymore. These models are very good at coming up with creative solutions, provided you give them the right tools. And that's where all that data comes in. They need to know things like the most accurate information. That's back to what the model knows and the retrieval augmented generation system that's going to provide that information to the LLM through natural language, right? Palantir provides that. They provide the ability for you to kind of codify all this into an algorithm, and they give you all the models. They give you the ability to make the tool factory and the tools, and then you combine all that, and what you get at the end of the day is work that a human used to do is now done by AI, and what the human needs to do now is like monitor that whole system, provide feedback to the system, say, this was a good solution, this was a bad solution, and here's why, right? And feed that back into the training data for the model so it can adapt and do better the next time. That's a step change in software. That isn't
100%. And to put it quite simply, right? Imagine you're a company, right? And as a company, you can look out there and you can say, okay, this is how we grow our business, this is how we can save money, things like that. You as a human making these decisions, right? But what if you had a software to tell you before you even think of it, hey, we could potentially save cost over here. Hey, we need to potentially do this thing. It's going to help our, our supply chain be streamlined. Hey, we should probably send this customer some sort of update because they could be interested in this product or that product, right? What if the AI program is using your data to basically tell you these are decisions you should make without you having to go and try to search out that solution? What if you have a software there, right? And that's the beauty of what Palantir is really trying to do for companies, right? Is make forward-looking judgments and tell you, hey, we should likely do this. That's the battlefield at the end of the day, right? Before you've really even thought about maybe we should do this, maybe we should do that, it can say we should do this, right? And then you can look at it as a human and you can say, okay, yeah, that's smart. Yeah, we should do that. Or no, let's not do that, right? So that's the beauty. And that's a very different, obviously, value proposition than like a ChatGPT where you're like searching out something and you're typing it in. You're like, da, da, da. This is a whole different ball game in terms of what Palantir is playing here.
It's at the center of software anymore. Humans are around the edges, barely just sort of pushing the model in the right direction. Palantir is the only company that's leaning in this direction.
So I see what you're saying. So instead of becoming everyone becoming prompt engineers and typing into the AI, you're literally allowing it because you've had the guide rail set up appropriately to say, yes, this guide rail is working as expected. I agree with the solution, and continue to say, or if it doesn't, give it the feedback as to why, and it might try to incorporate that into them.
And that's true AI at the end of the day, right? That goes into like remember Elon Musk used to have this dream of Tesla, the machine building the machine, right? That's real AI. Like, decisions that can start being made and you trust those decisions that are, ultimately the best decision for your business at that particular time, right?
And when it comes up with it the next time, you say, yes, this is appropriate. And then it continues that feedback loop.
That's right. It's a reinforcement loops, right? So you have to have the humans there providing the feedback to the model to keep the system running and letting the model continue to be on the rails, performing the operations. And that's a whole different world, like a whole different way we're going to work. And I think Palantir is the only company that sort of has figured that out. And so they're sort of operating, there's no one competing directly with them in this space yet. I think that they're the only enterprise company that I know of that sort of figured that out and built a platform around the use cases required now for the knowledge workers who used to be sitting there making PowerPoints and punching numbers.
See, now that's a very important statement he just made right there, right? Coach Strap would definitely be seen as, an expert in this industry and exactly what all these companies are up to and understanding the very intimate details of these companies, right? And for him to say right there, extremely important, for him to say, there's really no direct competition for Palantir and kind of the way they're trying to solve problems and what they're trying to do, right? I think that's very impactful because people like to throw around these other companies and Amazon's a competitor and Microsoft's a competitor and Databricks and Snowflake, and it's like all these companies have different verticals and kind of what they're trying to do, right? Maybe there's some overlap here and there, but there's a lot, and I mean a lot that's different. And the more you get into the nitty gritty, the more you start to understand that.
And analyzing data, they're not going to be doing that anymore. They're just not. Those jobs are never coming back.
Do you think Palantir was the only one to figure it out because they have the technical capabilities to actually solve the problem, or is that other companies see that they don't want to solve it, or they don't see at all?
It's art, right? This is more art than science, and I think they're the artist colony. Like Palantir is the artist colony, and that's why they figured it out. They have a unique culture over there. I think that at a lot of other places, you don't have that same kind of creativity. It's like you can give the same set of paints to a 2-year-old or Leonardo da Vinci, get very different outcomes. Everyone's got the same.
And I think a lot of that comes from the leadership, right? It comes from the top down. I mean, you think about Karp. I mean, gosh, that guy is, Mr. Philosopher over there, right? Very different CEO than I can tell you the average CEO of the company.
Paints right now, right? Like we're all using basically the same foundation models. Palantir has figured out a way to use those paints to create like a masterpiece, and it's more artistic expression than anything else.
Hence why stock-based compensation, you need to keep the artists and keep the Da Vincis, because that's what's built the company over the last 20
culture,
years.
Right? And the culture. Yeah. I find it interesting, like I don't know, have you guys been monitoring the job boards? Do you know if they're like hiring right now, or like?
They're not hiring sales, I'll tell you that.
That's right. My guess is like they're probably not on a huge hiring spree, especially if you're trying to maintain profitability, right? And so that's one way to like force the company to keep up that innovation and like the art that they do, is to basically like do more with less. It's like a commitment that we will find a way to like innovate through all of this, and so far they've done that really well.
I think what we've learned really over this past year, and it started at some of the biggest companies out there, including Meta, Amazon. What we've really learned this year, and I think what smaller companies like the Palantirs can adapt with, is just because you got the biggest teams and the most employees, it doesn't always mean you're going to come out with the best products and services. Could actually slow your business down substantially. Everything can become a lot more bureaucratic, and the pace of innovation could slow massively. And you listen to somebody like Zuckerberg talking, they did massive cuts last year, right? And that man says they're moving faster than ever now, even though they did all those cuts, right? And at the end of the day, like when you have too many employees, you're probably going to have a lot of bad employees. Those bad ones pull down the good employees. It creates culture problems. It creates, once again, bureaucratic problems in terms of getting things to innovate and change the game. And as a tech company, that's what it's all about, man. You got to move fast. You got to be ready to go here and there fast, or you're going to get left behind, right? You look what Amazon's done over the past year. They're moving fast. So I just think these companies are realizing, man, sometimes it's better to be a little more lean and efficient versus bloated. Because I think a lot of these tech companies thought, back in 2020, 2021, add as many employees as possible. It's going to help us. And the more I think companies have realized, let's run lean, because it's actually going to be better for our business. We'll actually grow better, not just bottom line, but top line as well, if we're a much more efficient company.
It's important for them, I think, to just like keep that culture, but at the same time, they are going to have to find a way to grow the business by 50, 100x, and that's a whole different problem,
Let's go ahead.
Claude, I have a very interesting question here. Because basically we're talking about scalability, right? Like we know that Palantir can sell and deliver good products to customers. And is the problem that basically Palantir tailor makes their solution to each individual company, and then Palantir needs their own forward deploy engineers deployed at the companies so they can constantly, tailor make the problems? And is this why you always say that they need a developer community? Because then you wouldn't need Palantir employees. Like if there was 100, like right now, if there's 100 companies who want Foundry, then Palantir has to go, okay, we have 10 workers and you have to queue them up, and then we start with these 10. But if there was a developer community, then it could be like Palantir does these 10 and the other 90 is done by outside consultants, or okay.
Yeah, let's just do the thought experiment, right? Like they have like 3,800 employees, right? I don't know how many sales, how many engineers. And if you're not going to hire your way out of that problem, right? Like what's your solution? Because your customers are going to notice that you're not around as much if you're like doing the same level of business you're doing. If you really are going to grow the company at like the rates we want them to, it's like they're doubling their business every year, basically. Mm-hmm. And your customers are going to notice that, like, hey, wait a minute, you don't have as much time for me, right? And the world's best Foundry engineers cannot be inside Palantir if that's the case, because there's just no way in which their customers or people who are going to be customers can use them as their labor.
It's fair.
Right? Like,
good point.
It's impossible. And most software companies figure that out pretty early on, that look, we need the open source, we need the developer community, we need the certification side, because that ensures there's a massive labor pool for our product that our customers can use to then scale their implementations, right? And they'll feel better about the acquisition in the first place if they know that they don't have to use us for all of their work. They can use channel partners. There's a whole selection of those. They can use, alliance partners. They can use their own internal people. There's training everywhere. That's why AWS was super successful. That's why all these technology companies tend to be super successful, as they grow this massive community of talent, and they all advocate for those solutions because that's what they're certified in. And then they align the financial incentives, right? I got this new certificate, I get a raise. You've got to do that shit, right? Because then all the people who, if you're a developer, you're hearing 50 different tools every day you could go spend your time building with, but you want to be on the one that the company's going to reward you for,
Yep.
Hypothetically, do you think the reason we're not seeing the scale we want there from the partnerships like Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, as we all know, for those who are in the industry and have worked in SaaS, it's a pay-to-play incentivized way to work with partners. Those who pay, those are who choose to adopt, and those relationships happen, and there's incentives there, and then it grows. You also pay and invest in enablement, in development, in learning. And because they need to keep that profitability right now, and it's so slim as to where they are, if it could fall below, maybe they're just not in a position to double down there yet.
Yeah, I think I'm helping there. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining without solutions either.
No.
This is a problem I'm helping fix early in the first quarter of the year. They have training partners. My job, we're hooked up with some of these training partners. There's a lot we're going to do, I think, in the first quarter of next year to try and fix a lot of these things, especially with incentives, and then how do we scale that training program and through that partner. I think there's a lot that we can do there, and there's more training partners coming too. Right now, there's one that I know is Ontologize. It's a company that Taylor started. He's ex-Palantir. There's another one that I just found out about that's starting. So this is the best thing. I wish Palantir didn't invest in SPACs and they just invested in go invest in training partners for Foundry. Because if you want to scale this thing, the more of those there are, the better off we're all going to be. And scaling your partner network.
Do you think the company is finally aware of this whole developer community partner network stuff you've been talking about for 2 years, or are they still kind of we
Good
don't
question.
need to worry about it yet?
No, they are. They're not good at everything. That whole artist colony thing. It's you're probably amazing at coming up with the right way to apply technology, but you might suck at business. In terms of figuring out things how do I build a medallion program that can align these engineers with raises and promotions. That's a very, probably might feel gross, you're trying to build something like that to someone who might be really more aligned with I just want to build tech, or I just want to figure out a way to or maybe they're more collectivist in nature and they don't even like the idea of individual achievement and recommendation.
Hold your horses.
But some of the things that make them really good at one thing might not make them good at other things. I don't know if that's exactly the case, but I think that they are.
There's plenty of SaaS companies out there that maybe don't have necessarily the best products in the market, but man, they're good at sales. They're really good at sales.
That the right way to solve that is to leverage people who are. And great news is they've got some really good partners who are really good at those things, and they're going to be solving these problems for them.
I'll tell you the company that Palantir needs to steal some employees away from. I'll tell you the company, okay? Oh man, if they could steal away some key people at Salesforce, ooh, could we be talking? If you said, okay, I got to go be CEO of Palantir, the first thing I'm trying to do is steal some either ex Salesforce employees or some current ones, man. I don't know if that's totally legal, but I would try to make some moves and try to find some people because Salesforce is just the ultimate company, in my opinion, of just really understanding the game of scaling a business, growing, and just understanding the whole game behind that and really in this industry. So, Palantir maybe needs a little bit more Salesforce in their company.
Karp mentioned that they can't keep up with demand, hinting that it's not a dollar problem, but I guess from what you said previously, is more an organizational problem. So I wonder, given your experience and since you like bottlenecks, what is exactly the biggest bottleneck from making now, I guess you make an X number of bootcamps. What is preventing you, for instance, from doing 10x the number of bootcamps you're doing?
Ooh, good question.
We just don't have enough people because it's like logistics and operations, and the people on the other side, right? The people you're trying to have attend those boot camps have schedules and scheduling conflicts, and
100%.
kids' birthdays they got to go to, and so it's one of those things where when you're trying to distribute that problem out, your calendar by very nature has to have more dates in it, right? Like if you're gonna go city by city instead of one city and you bring everyone there, you've got to have more dates on the calendar, and it amplifies all of those problems, right? Like, well, that date's not going to work for Joe over here because Joe's got this other thing going on, and Alice over here's got this other thing going. So it's like the very nature of trying to get everyone together is harder because you're like shooting at these moving targets across a much broader range of dates, rather than you just go, okay, a year from now, we're going to host a 10,000 person conference in Vegas. And
there we go,
here's the dates, right? And then everyone comes to that conference and you get...
Remember I mentioned Salesforce earlier. They do this big event every year called Dreamforce. Holy smokers, that's no jokers.
Shit done across all 10,000 people all in the span of like 3 or 4 days, So it's like, that's how you solve the problem, is like you actually just make one giant event where everyone comes to, and that becomes like your AWS reInvent. It's funny too, because like AIPCon is probably the hottest ticket in the US right now. Dude, you know how hard it is to get into that fucking conference, no matter who you are? Like,
oh, I know. I definitely know.
Dude, it's rough. Even for the high levels at like all these major companies, it's a tough ticket to get. You gotta know some people, man. You gotta be like, hey, I gotta, pull on that lever over here, this pull I got, to try and get a ticket. That's because it's like 180 people, right? But there's tens of thousands of people that want to go and experience that. So
do you think also there's a concern about...
That's a good point. Okay, now I want to quickly just show a little piece of Snowflake segment because I think that's important, and then we'll get Code Strap's 2024 expectations for Palantir, which I think is going to be really important.
Consulting firm, you did say on this podcast that Snowflake was dog shit pussy. Do you still share the same opinion?
Snowflake is snow.
Dude, I'm not trying to get demonetized. Come on, man.
As in the stock. The product's great. I actually think the product's really good for what it does and what you use it for. The stock, and I was just like, I still can't wrap my brain around like the valuation that they get, because it's like their last earnings report, from what I heard, it was like growth continued to decelerate. They were making less money, but everyone's like super stoked. I don't know why, but like everyone's like, yay, and like, apparently everyone was very psyched on that. And the problem with the Snowflake is like their initial use case, data warehousing, like that was a mature market. Like we already kind of all the technology that makes a good data warehouse, we knew it 9 years ago, 10 years ago. Nothing's changed there. And like there's only so many people, so many users of a data warehouse. Like you aren't going to scale it at the valuation that they're holding Snowflake at. So Snowflake's rapidly trying to reinvent itself. It's trying to become a lake house, and then it's trying to like grow through acquisition right now. And none of that bodes well. If you're this company that needs to trade, it's trading at a ridiculous multiple, and they need to reaccelerate growth. Like you can't do it through the data warehouse market, which is your core business.
Data warehouse again is just storing the data, essentially, right?
A warehouse is like, when you think of a data warehouse, you're saying it's a special kind of database that makes analytics easy. Okay. We've known what makes that good for about 10 years, and nothing's really fundamentally changed there. So they're not going to have a big technology breakthrough in the data warehousing space. The warehouse became the lake house, which is this idea that you combine streaming and batch processing with model deployment. Like, you're going to kind of do continuous reinforcement learning. That becomes the lake house. Snowflake was behind the 8 ball on that. Databricks is really leading the way there. If you want a lake house, you use Databricks. You don't use Snowflake.
Interesting.
Although Snowflake has offerings there, they're just chasing, and kind of, in my opinion, it's not the same level of quality that they had on their core data warehouse offering. So all I could see coming down the pipe was like, their growth rate's going to slow, and they're going to struggle to try and be differentiated in these other areas and get the same level of adoption and market share as they got in the warehousing space, because they had a really unique compute model that made it scalable in the cloud, you know? And
that makes it not quite as compelling as far as looking at Snowflake as an investment, right? 2024 expectations.
Thing where it's 100%, you know, like we need to have those quarters that like really show that this company can scale. And I'd love to see like a quarter where it just blows it out of the water at like 50, 60% growth.
Oh, 50, 60% growth quarter? Oh, man. I mean, shoot. I would love that also. Do I see that happening? No, absolutely not. I'd be shocked if I saw a 30% plus growth rate for Palantir. I mean, even then, I would be like, oh my gosh, like we're back to 30% growth. That would be extraordinary. I'd be doing jumping jacks in here, okay? But I'm telling you, like 50, 60% growth, don't get your hopes about that. Unless maybe CoachStrap knows something that we don't know. I mean, that would just be extraordinarily crazy.
In NVIDIA.
I think we will see that in 2024. I think we're going to see like a blowout quarter.
Wow, he thinks we're going to see that in 2024, a blowout quarter. I mean, he's talking about 50, 60% growth rates. He just said specific. I mean, that's crazy. Everybody's going to lose their minds if that happens. Oh my gosh, we're going back to all-time highs on this baby if that happens. But don't get your hopes up, because I'm just telling you, that seems very tough for Palantir to get to those sorts of growth rates.
Things that I'm working on and they're working on, and everything is going to come together the way we all hope it will. There will be some kind of a blowout quarter where you're just like, holy shit. Like, I didn't think that we'd see this, you know, but we did. And that's what I'm aiming for, and what I'm gunning for is like the kind of growth that's going to make Wall Street actually pay attention. And I think
yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think Wall Street is starting to pay attention. I think, you know, you get on Wall Street's radar a few ways, right? One is AI in general. I mean, Wall Street's starting to pay attention. Dan Ives is now talking about Palantir. He brings it up several times just in the past few months. You know, I think the Gene Munsters, I think a lot of these guys are going to follow Palantir closer and closer as the coming years. I think Palantir is doing exactly what it needs to. They need to put up good, consistent double-digit growth, quarter in, quarter out. They need to grow that bottom line, right, and show that we're going to be a cash flow machine. And believe me, more and more Wall Streeters are going to come and pile onto this baby, right? Palantir doesn't have to put up a 50, 60% growth number for Wall Street to pay attention. All they got to do is keep knocking it. If they just become the company that you know quarter in and quarter out, they're growing double-digit top line, and they're going to grow their bottom line at even a faster clip, it's all you need. It's all you need. And believe me, everybody's coming over this baby. So, you know, that's cool if they ever get to that 50, 60% growth. My gosh, I'd be shocked. But even 15, 20, 25% growth, if they can put up that consistently, oh my gosh, like Palantir's next decade is going to be very exciting if they can just consistently keep pounding out numbers, okay? Appreciate y'all being here as always. Thanks so much for being here. Thank you for being subscribed, new all-time high subscribers. If you want to check out that full video, check out Amit's channel there. Also, I'll have a pinned comment down there. I just made moves in the Patreon portfolio. I bought a brand new stock in the Patreon portfolio. If you want to check that out, check out the pinned comment down there, and you can see exactly what stocks I bought and the brand new one for the portfolio. Okay, much love and have a great day.